Hello everyone! Welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Jessie Lee and I am wishing you a happy Valentine's Day. Today is also my 4th Flosstube anniversary and I am so glad to be back after a very long hiatus in order to celebrate with all of you. When I first began this channel, I had no clue just how much it would shape my cross-stitching hobby, how many wonderful stitchy friends I would make, or that it even would last for 4 entire years. But you guys have all been with me through so many cross-stitch projects, as well as events in my personal life, and I am just so very grateful for all the encouragement you've given me along the way. I'm recording this video today to celebrate the past 47 videos that I've managed to contribute to Flosstube because it's been such an honor to be a part of this brilliant, creative, and kind community. But I'm sad to say that this is going to be my last Flosstube video. These past 2 years, where I attempted to remain a part of Flosstube while attending college at the same time, were so frustrating because I really lost my momentum posting videos regularly, and since I had less stitching time, the content of my videos really suffered. And even though I've graduated college, it seems that my day-to-day life is continuing to bend away from Flosstube, and I really just can't bear to string you all along for even more intermittent and clunky videos. 2025 is going to be an intense year for my family and I. We will be doing some major home renovations on the milk carton. We have several travel plans on the books, and I also have a personal goal to complete this insanely large jigsaw puzzle that I got for Christmas. And all of these things will be majorly cutting in on my stitching time. The other major factor that's made me want to say goodbye here on my channel is that the actual process of making videos has never gotten easier for me. I like showing my projects and typing responses to your comments in the comment section, but I really don't like talking to a camera. It's a lot of stuttering and stopping and restarting, and it literally takes an entire night for me to just make a 30-minute video. And honestly, it's just not very fun. So yes, I've decided that this video will be my last, but I will be transferring my effort over to Instagram. I am in the process of creating an Instagram page that's exclusively dedicated to my cross-stitch and crafts, and that's where I will start posting lots of progress pictures of my stitching day-to-day, and I will be typing up fun little blurbs about my thoughts and experiences along the way. So I encourage you all to follow me on my personal Instagram, which is instagram.com/jessie.lee. And that is where I will announce my new Stitchtagram page as soon as I'm ready to launch it. I am really sad to be leaving Flosstube though, because I'm so proud to have been a part of this community. I tell people I see face to face in my daily life all the time about how I make videos here and about all the cool stitchy friends I've made who are from across the world and how we connect over this cool niche hobby. I'm so grateful to you all for watching my videos and for being here with me. And I really do hope that we can continue our connection over on Instagram. Anyway, before I go missing from Flosstube for forever, let me just explain why I've been missing from Flosstube up until now. We last left off with each other way back in July of last year. And in that last Flosstube video I made, I was talking to you all about how I was just starting my brand new job as a sleep technologist. And I was getting one-on-one training with the clinic manager. And I was so glad to be getting a smooth, comfortable transition into the job instead of some big trial by fire like I'd had at literally every other job I'd worked at. Well, a couple days after I posted that video, the clinic manager suddenly left her job. And then the week after that, one of the other sleep techs on staff suddenly went on medical leave. So, not only did I just get flung straight into working with patients, I was also picking up a bunch of extra shifts that needed to be filled. And this was all after my final nightmare semester of college, which involved those internships from hell, and then all the stress and suspense of cramming for and passing my board exam. I was really just stretched way past my limit. And there were a few months there where I was really stuck in a deep, dark funk. When I wasn't at work, I was not keeping up with any of my hobbies or my routines at home that make me feel fulfilled and stable. Instead, I ended up digging up my old Nintendo 3DS and playing Animal Crossing New Leaf, which is a game that I have never had a healthy relationship with, even if I played it when I wasn't depressed. So, that game ended up taking over my life in a really dysfunctional way until eventually, in November, my family and I took a little camping trip. It was just a quick weekend getaway in a cabin, and I didn't bring the Nintendo along, and I made the conscious decision not to pick it up again when we got back. And spending time outdoors, having fun with my family, just totally renewed my mental state. And when I got back to work, I gradually became a lot more confident in my job, and I can truthfully say that I'm absolutely loving it now. Performing sleep studies and taking care of patients is really, really great. I only ever have 2 patients at a time, so I really get to give them my personal attention, and sitting at the computer watching over their polysomnograms through the night while they sleep is really, really cool. This career totally fits my personality, and I'm just so grateful that God brought me the opportunity. This is the first job that I've ever had where who I am as a person is a real asset to the type of work that needs to be done. It feels amazing, and honestly, all of the bullshit that I had to go through to get here was totally worth it. So, if any of you watching this are in the middle of the ride toward getting a good career, I just want to encourage you that everything will be just fine. I am 38 years old, and I am really, really sensitive and weird. And in the past, I severely struggled out in the workforce, but I made it, and so can you. I believe in you. There are a couple highlights from the time that's gone by since my last Flosstube video that I would like to share with you guys. I continued my tradition of making my kids Halloween costumes. Here is a little picture for Halloween 2024. Glenn and Sylvia dressed up as a box of popcorn and a cone of cotton candy. And I was really deep in my funk at the time I was making these, so they're a bit simpler than what I've done in past years, but the costumes still turned out adorable. Glenn and Sylvia really loved them, and they had so much fun trick-or-treating in these, so even though this probably isn't my best work ever, I'm still really, really proud of it because I really had to dig deep to muster the energy to crank these out. So here they are. I hope you enjoy them. I think the kids looked super adorable. The other highlight I have to share is also crafting related and so exciting to talk about. And that is my creative space over here has gotten a major makeover with a brand new crafting desk. My previous desk consisted of two pink tables from IKEA scooched up next to each other, and right next to them was my bearded dragon Calcifer's giant lizard mansion, which took up the entire rest of the wall. Well, the lizard mansion got moved down to our main floor, and then I replaced the two tables with this gigantic desk that takes up this entire wall. It is almost 12 feet long, and I absolutely love it. It's an actual desk, not two tables, so it looks less awkward. I have more storage. I have a power strip in the desktop that is so handy. I absolutely love it. And I feel so inspired to do so many crafts all the time now. I love sitting here and working. And also there's room for Sylvia to come sit with me and do her little projects. I absolutely love it. And it just makes me feel so inspired to do so many creative things. And I'm so excited, of course, to share them all with you. Anyway, let me finally get to what we're all here for, and that is my cross stitch. Like I said before, I got really addicted to Animal Crossing for a couple months there, so my stitching really fell by the wayside, but I did keep up with the couple of projects that were the most important to me. And then in the new year, I've gotten into a really good groove with a couple of new starts, so the little bit of stitching that I have to talk about is all stuff that feels really special to have been working on. The first project I have to show you here is my finish of High Hopes by Just Nan. I stitched this on 32 count ivory Lugana with Victoria Clayton silks. This was my first time stitching with silk thread, and I loved the tactile feel of stitching with this, and I love the finished look of it, but it took extra concentration to make my stitches perfectly uniform because silk thread has a very sleek look that is very unforgiving. So you have to be very accurate with your stitches for them to look extra neat. But I chose to stitch this in special silk thread because this was made in memory of my precious tortoiseshell kitty Calypso, who passed away at the age of 17 in November of 2023. Calypso was the first kitty that my husband Tim and I adopted together when we first moved into an apartment together as young adults, and she was there for all of our milestones. Getting married, moving into our first house, having our children, moving to Minnesota, moving into this house. And it feels very strange to continue my life without her in it. I miss her very much, but I think this piece that I stitched for her turned out really beautiful. Here it is up close. I finished this quite a while ago, and I've just had it rolled up and put away because I'm just still trying to figure out the best way to fully finish this. I just threw it in a hoop so I could show it to you nice and flat in this video, but I love the colors of the threads. They look nice on the fabric. The image is really sweet. I love sort of the nostalgic feel of the design, and I really enjoyed stitching this, and I was very happy to do it in honor of my sweet Calypso. I also managed to fully finish my temperature fish. Did they ever turn out cute? Oh my goodness. Every year, starting in 2020, I have stitched a temperature design to represent the daily weather here in Maplewood, Minnesota, where I live. And I designed these temperature fish myself. There are 12 fish, one to represent each month, and the scales on the fish represent the daily high temperature with their color. So up here at the top is my key for my color scale. I have tiny numbers stitched in there so you know what temperatures these colors represent. And then down here in tiny backstitch, I recorded the lowest and highest temperatures of the year. So January 14th, 2024 was 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and September 16th was 90 degrees Fahrenheit. We have quite the range here in Minnesota. So these turned out really great. I had to stitch them 1/1 on 40 count Edinburgh linen in the colorway Jalapeno by Fiber on a Whim. I had to do such tiny stitches because this is a humongous pattern. It is around 350 stitches wide, and I want my collection of temperature designs to all be finished in hoops. So in order for this to fit in a hoop, I had to stitch it teeny tiny, and that got to be such a pain in the butt, and I was so sick of stitching this piece by the end. But I got through it, and I'm happy with the finished product. The only hoop it would fit in was the one that I stitched it in all year. That hoop was originally pink, but I was so lucky to find the perfect shade of spray paint to use to turn it green. And then I found these adorable plastic water lilies to embellish the corners. And I think it turned out really, really cute. I'm so happy with it. But this was a big pain in the butt to stitch, and I don't think I will ever stitch my own pattern ever again. This is enough. Oh, and the back of it was also a lucky find. This lily pad fabric is absolutely perfect. It coordinates beautifully with everything going on in the front. So this entire finished product just fills me with joy. I was hating stitching this in the last quarter of the year last year, but now that I've finished it all up, I just couldn't be happier with it. And I'm really proud of this fish design because the fish themselves are just really, really cute. For 2025, I've decided to restitch the Temperature Tree pattern by Sarah Hughes, the Stitchin' Mommy. Most of the temperature patterns I've stitched through the years have been by Sarah because I just absolutely love her designs. They're clever and beautiful and simple enough that they're fun to stitch and keep up with throughout the year. And before I show you my new start on the Temperature Tree, I want to show you my original one. Here it is. I stitched this in 2020. This was the first temperature pattern that I ever stitched, and it was one of the first projects that got me back into cross stitching and heavily interested in it. So it became my main hobby and started my journey to come here on Flosstube. So this is really, really special. And what's kind of funny about it is that down here in the lower tree trunk, my stitches got very crowded and sort of crooked because I was not a very experienced stitcher at the time. And another funny thing about this is that this cheap even weave that I got probably from Michael's got very, very stretched in the hoop. So it wasn't square anymore, and my tree turned out very tall because the square stretched out a lot vertically. But that's okay because trees can be any kind of shape. So it looks just fine being an extra ovular tree. The pattern has the tree much more round, as you will see on my 2025 one that I have so far. But I chose my own colors of DMC thread in a rainbow color scheme. And I stitched this 1/1 on what I believe is 28 count fabric. And it says here the lowest temperature of 2020 was February 13th. It was 1 degree Fahrenheit. And then on July 4th, the highest temperature was 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Cool. And then this is what the back looks like. I chose this watercolor green fabric. It looks pretty leafy and nice. And this tree is super cute and super special. And then here is my 2025 tree. It is quite a bit different, as you can see. I am stitching this 1/2 on 36 count fabric flare Lugana in the colorway cream. It looks white here on camera, but in real life, it is a very light mottled, warm, sunny cream color. And stitching this 1/2 with DMC floss, my coverage on the fabric isn't that great. You can see a lot of show through my crosses, but with this particular design, I kind of enjoy the look of it. I get to show off how neat and uniform my stitches are. But I find it interesting that it's specifically DMC floss that has this more sparse coverage over 36 count fabric if you're stitching 1/2, because let me show you something. My Quaker Peace sampler that I'm stitching is on the exact same fabric, just in a different colorway. This is 36 count Lugana by Fabric Flair, and I'm stitching it 1/2, but I'm stitching it with Threadworks floss, and the thread coverage over the fabric is absolutely perfect. There is no show through between my crosses with the Threadworks floss. So if you tend to avoid stitching on 36 count fabric because you don't like the thread coverage you get, try Threadworks floss instead. It looks absolutely beautiful 1/2 on 36 count. So just a suggestion, something I discovered. But I do like the way this is turning out. I think this thread coverage looks nice on the style of this design, and I enjoy seeing how neat and uniform my stitches are because of this more sparse coverage. And I also enjoy the sparse coverage because my stitches have breathing room. The tactile experience of stitching this is such a relief after really packing in the tiny stitches on my temperature fish. So this is a totally brand new look to be spending time with through this year, and I'm really liking it so far. I did choose different colors for the leaves this year. I decided to go with a more natural color scheme. I went with colors that leaves actually come in nature. So the cold temperatures will be represented by brown, and then it will go along, and the hot temperatures will be represented by green. And I already got the cold colors out of the way right here in January, right down here. Got every shade of brown, even this one for the very coldest temperatures. Some years I am held in suspense as to whether or not I'll get to stitch the coldest color, but I got it out of the way right away in January. So that's nice to have done. And I think the leaves are looking really pretty in these colors so far. This pattern is so much fun to stitch. It is the right amount of work. It is the perfect stitching commitment for a year-long project. It is nowhere near as fussy and time-consuming as my temperature fish were, or my temperature clouds before that. So I am just absolutely over the moon to be back stitching a new temperature tree for 2025. It'll be so cool to add this to my collection and see how it looks in comparison to my 2020 temperature tree, because they do look quite different from each other. And it's interesting to see how my stitching has matured through the years. So I hope you continue to follow me over on Instagram as I complete this through the year, because I think it's going to turn out really, really pretty. I also have a very recent new start to show you, and it was inspired by Valentine's Day. This is my favorite holiday, not because Tim and I ever do much to make it really romantic, although we do tend to get each other cute little gifts, but it's my favorite just because of the merch. In the middle of winter, it makes me so happy to find such adorable pink and purple and red heart-themed things in the stores. I love pink and purple in particular, and I really, really love hearts. I have a lot of hearts in my general decor around the house, and I just think hearts are appropriate year-round because love is wonderful. So Valentine's Day is my favorite just because I love all the merch. Anyway, the Valentine's Day pattern that I have recently started is Love Bugs by Counting Puddles. And I found out about this pattern from watching Kay's Flosstube. Her channel is Kay in the Cave of Wonders. And when I saw in one of her videos that she was stitching this, immediately after the video was over, I bought the pattern online. I got the digital version, and then I rummaged through my stash and started stitching it. So here is how mine looks so far. I'll show it to you a bit more closely. I'm stitching this on some 28 count even weave that I dyed a long time ago. It has very pretty pink and purple swirls on it, and I had been hanging on to this, and I had it in mind to stitch a fairy on it one of these days because I thought the swirly pink and purple and the few specks of white looked rather magical. But how could this not be the perfect fabric for stitching a Valentine's Day themed piece? The colors are just perfect. It was the best thing I had in my stash for this design. And then, of course, you guys know I love to pull my own threads and deviate from the called for colors. So this is what I'm using to stitch the little love bugs. I am incorporating some of my sparkly special effects DMC into this pattern. So all the little hearts and X's and O's on these cute beetles' backs will be shiny. And these little sprinkle hearts throughout the design I also have in the white DMC special effects. So that will add some sparkle too. And this has been so fun and quick to stitch so far. I'm sure I will have it finished by the end of February. I've just been avidly working on it. This whip is screaming to me the loudest out of all of my whips. So I'm just having so much fun with this, and I'm sure I will have it done by the end of the month. And really, even though it's Valentine's Day themed, it's going to hang out here in my room year round because it's just so adorable and it really fits in with everything else I got. Well, sadly, that's all I have to talk about in my very last Flosstube video here. So it's time for me to say goodbye. And funny enough, Sabrina here has shown up to say goodbye too. She has been in the background of all of my Flosstube videos, and she has shown up once more. So there she is. Sabrina says goodbye as well. And I'd love to keep her in the frame, but I know that sconce is probably blinding you. So I'm going to scooch the camera back over, and you're just going to see Sabrina's backside, which I guess is appropriate because most of the time it was just her backside that showed up in these videos. But it has been such an honor to be a part of Flosstube for so many years. I have made friends with so many of you, and the relationships I've developed here on this channel have been so very meaningful to me. The cross-stitch community is a wonderful niche to be a part of, and I'm so happy that I could contribute something to it through these videos here on Flosstube. Thank you for watching. Thank you for encouraging me in stitching and in life. Thank you for listening to me talk about my projects, and I hope you've enjoyed everything I have to share. It's really been an honor and a really and truly meaningful life experience for me that I will always remember and always be proud of. Before I go, I have to share with you the motto of my grandma, who inspired me both in stitching and in life. God loves you, and I love you. Happy stitching. Bye-bye.